before us are there any changes to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, that motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on the agenda? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, item 1D, parent to address the.
Good evening. My name is Aubrey Watkins. I have 3 kids in the district currently, and those 2 at the high school, they both come through the system. My wife's a physician here in town. I'm a minister, so we have a lot of thoughts about kids' physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. And the issue that I think you know I'm here to speak about is phones in schools. And although I'm here to address what I think is perhaps the inadequacy of our policy, I'm not here just to complain or point fingers at you all. I realize this is a problem that you all know about, and I realize it's one that everyone's attempting to address as best they can. And so I even know from speaking briefly with Dr. Payton that there's a few extra steps trying to be rolled out for this next year, as I hear it. And so I applaud all of those efforts. From what I hear of that, I probably would still consider those not sufficient, not adequate. And I want to just give you a few kind of quick reasons why I think so. And it starts with just the scale of this problem, which I think research and things are getting us to a point of realizing that our kids in this rising generation, they really have been raised on cell phones in a way that it has become very intrinsic to their very being. And so to ask them to come into a classroom and not pay attention to their phone is a huge, huge thing. And there's been a lot of work that's been done recently, and I brought 2 copies of this book. I know some of you are probably aware of it, others may not. I'll give away 2 tonight, and I'll take a name and address from anybody on the administration or the school board. I'll be glad to give you a copy. The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Hyatt came out last year. It's been making waves. I know he's speaking to a lot of educators around the country. And to try and boil it all down is hard, but I'm going to give you the 2 main things that are, to me, come out of that book. One is that phones are the best correlation we have with the rise of mental health problems among our adolescents right now. It's a correlation kind of data thing, so correlation is not causation, and it still may get debated, but it's really hard to deny it at this point, and most people are pretty much there to accept it. My guess is you all have seen some of these things. The second is, from my reading of his work and other stuff that I've been following since I came upon his work, it just seems pretty clear from most of the kind of data I see that educational outcomes improve when there are rigorous attempts to address the phone situation in classrooms. And I know you all are taking steps. And I'm sure my time is getting close. I'll give you just a couple of the reasons why I think what we have currently is inadequate, and then I will stop. If you have any questions for me, of course, I'd be glad to add. But besides the simple fact that the problem is bigger than what this policy can address, from the feedback I get from my students and some others, it is a regular, constant ping and vibration in pockets, in backpacks, all throughout classes. I'm sure that's not as true in some cases as others, but I would just suggest to you that from what I can tell, that's the norm. And that doesn't mean every kid's grabbing those phones every second to look at every one of those vibrations or pings, but it's affecting the education whether they look at it there or not. It's a part of this whole environment. And I do hear reports also a lot less frequent of cheating with phones, pulling them out during quizzes and tests and those sort of things. Obviously, all that's anecdotal, and I'm sure that's more or better and less handled by certain teachers, of course. My last biggest point is I think the current policy is it puts an unfair burden on our teachers to try to do this with too little ammunition. If they were willing to invest the time to police this properly and well, the follow-up and the consequences aren't great enough to change any of the behavior, and you would just feel like a hamster on the wheel. So I think there's lots of work being done out there. You guys probably are better than me at accessing the case studies and the research that's going on. I think there are enough schools out there you can read about different approaches to doing this sort of thing. None of them are perfect. I'm not here with a silver bullet for you. I just would like to just encourage you and say, here's one parent, and I should say, I realize parents really ultimately are the biggest issue in this whole problem. But here's one parent just saying, I want to encourage you all to be more aggressive. And if I can help in any way to stand before other parents and say, hey, we need this, our kids need this, I would be glad to do anything I could to help move those efforts forward. Because I do think it's a collective action problem. It needs to be, to address it well, has to start with parents and students and faculty and all the way up to the very top. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I guess the only comment that I'll make is first and foremost, thank you for coming here and addressing the board tonight as another parent that's seen kids all the way through the system, fixing to graduate college, down to elementary school now, a product of a zero tolerance cell phone policy and a product of the policy that we currently have in place. This issue took place when we had a zero tolerance cell phone policy. Fighting is completely banned on our campuses. The use of illicit substances are completely banned on our campuses. Plagiarism is completely banned on our campuses. Yet despite our best efforts, sometimes these events still happen. There are some changes that do sit on the board tonight that we hope will remove some of the red tape that our educators face, regarding maybe bringing some more abrupt teeth to those actions. But the reason that you see a policy in place right now is because the zero tolerance policy that sat in place before it was equally, if not more laughable in its outcome than what is happening here. And so again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to get on the agenda the right way and come here and see us and share your concerns, because a lot of parents would stop at social media. And that's just a counterproductive wheel in and of itself. So I do appreciate you, and your comments are not lost on us. Just a little bit of an explanation as to kind of how we got to where we're operating now and kind of how we're trying to tweak it, because for all the years that we operated zero tolerance, these devices sat in these classrooms all the same. And so it's a pendulum type issue that we're trying to dial in to first and foremost give a good, solid, enforceable policy to our classroom educators. Because we can adopt what we want, we can say what we want, but if it gets down to the classroom and it's unenforceable, has no teeth, it does nothing. And so it is a work in progress. I wish I could say that we had a silver bullet to offer you, but we don't. But just know that even as of tonight, there are things sitting on the board, some decisions to make that hopefully will remove some of that red tape. We hear you, and we're trying to work in that direction.
Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. Okay, item 1E, are there any visitors signed up?
There are no visitors.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, item 2. Mr. Johnson is going to step out and recuse himself on this one. Okay, are there any items that any board member would like to pull out? Okay, do you want to, yeah.
We are grouping several routine items into a single consent agenda. Any board member may request that any or all items on the consent agenda be removed and considered as a separate item. If no such request is made, all items on the consent agenda may be approved by a single action of the Board of Trustees. It is recommended that all items 2A through Z and 3A through N on the consent agenda for May 12, 2025 be approved.
All right, do I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0. 1.
Oh, So we didn't explain.
Sorry.
Oh,
Okay, moving on to item 4A.
So, on this particular one, Ms. Wilson, this is our normal teacher salary scale, but also includes an increase of this time because as we did research into other districts around our area and making sure that we stay very competitive in that market, we did recommend an increase. We also have a new stipend for a high needs area for inclusion classrooms that we have found an area that we really need in those things that we really believe in. Otherwise, it is the normal recommendation for the teacher salary scale outside of that.
All right, do I have a motion on 4A?
I make a motion to approve the teacher salary for 2025-2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay,
So, looking at the scale itself, I mean, first of all, let me just say this. I'm not opposed to teachers getting an increase. I think our teachers and all of our staff should be making more than they make. But I do understand that the state hasn't made a final decision on their budget. And when we change our local supplement can't be changed lower. It has to stay where it's at, so it's kind of finalized. I know that you mentioned that other districts, but I haven't seen all the other districts. I did do some research on it. I haven't seen where they've changed, and yet we are still higher than them. And I know you changed, I did like that you're adding those extra supplements for those high needs areas. I did like that piece of it, but I mean, I would like us to consider possibly since contracts have been issued, it's not like we're gonna lose anybody who's already contracted, but that we might consider that we hold off on making a final decision on this until the state itself has approved their funding budget for education.
any more discussion?
Any thoughts on their side? I mean, I think for sure, as we definitely want to support our teachers do the right thing. And I'm not one to say let's be proactive in that. If this delay is warranted, we should consider it. I think we as a board certainly do support this recommendation. So I guess Superintendent Lindsay, is there something from your side, from the state? What are your thoughts there? Because we want to prove this.
Well, Ms. Grant and I have had at length discussions about this particular topic, about where we were. This has not just started this year. This is something we consider every single year since we've been here. And we closely monitor those other districts. Now, they may have board meetings tonight. I'm not, to be honest with you, on when they approved theirs, but we did not want to definitely fall behind them in any form or scenario because, there's nothing that we want to be second at, to be honest with you. And this is very much one of taking care of our people that we feel is very important. Now, in the discussion with Ms. Grant, I can tell you she is very much about telling them direct. If we feel worried, we can't afford it, those kind of things, she will tell you herself that she's always concerned about things that are coming in the future, but not concerned enough to say, no, we shouldn't do this. So that's where we were.
I think for me, it's just the fact that the state hasn't yet approved their budget, and just for us to be able to see really what's coming down, because it could affect something else for us. And so, and this is not just it's a one-time thing, it's a long-term accrual, right? I mean, this is every year, and the last time we had an increase in our local supplement was in 2020, 2021, so 5 years ago, and it's not going to keep us from being able to revisit this. I mean, we have contracts out. I don't know where the others, I did research, because I know I asked the question, and I did research. I didn't see them all with their updates, but even with them, if they were going 500 or more, because I know that Ocean Springs went a lot more. Their supplement was only like 3,200 last year for just a teacher first, 0 years experience, up to a certain amount. We were still above what they went to. They almost doubled their supplement. And so I guess we're not going to miss out on anything if we wait.
Well, I will tell you, our teachers will hear that other districts raise their supplement.
But they don't
Regardless
go
of the
over
dollar
us.
amount, they'll hear that they, and that will be a negative on it. So that's the only thing I would say in that
They're
scenario.
still not more than us.
I understand the numbers.
Yeah,
I understand the numbers, but here in Ocean Springs, almost double theirs, if we don't do anything.
but they're still not over us.
I understand, Ms. Black. I'm just saying that's
You
all
know?
I'm gonna say about it, yeah.
So I guess for me, is like, if I hear it's correct, we know there's some opportunity to say wait or defer delay. But I'm hearing also from the school, there's no risk factor that something will come out from the state that costs us more here. And that, yes, that,
We have the funding formula and we have what our allocation should be. Until the legislature passes the funding bill, we won't know for sure if that is what we receive.
Right.
Who knows what might happen in session, so,
That's the way I'm
I
concerned.
couldn't say, she's right in that piece. We know what we're supposed to get and we know what we've been promised, and we know what the law says about the formula and that it shall be funded. But, until it's signed,
Because last year we didn't get everything.
we did.
Yeah, we did last year.
We did finally, or,
And we had increased enrollment from prior years, so
Right.
our tentative allocation is higher than last year. But again, until it's final and governor signs it, that's the final piece. of
Ms.
it.
Britt, do you have like a number, what the impact would be for this year?
With the $500 we do, I don't have it right in front of me, but we have about 650 certified employees. So,
I think I did like 700 and it was like 350,000, let's just say.
with the benefits, and then it's going to be a
Right.
good chunk.
That's true. I didn't do it with benefits or anything. But we do have a motion and a
Yeah,
second,
motion and a
so.
second. Unless you wanna-
no, we have a motion on the table.
Yes,
And I
we do.
respect the fact that we had some conversation. But I suggest we take.
Call the vote.
Yes.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the request, and we've had discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I abstain.
Mr. Johnson. All right, moving on to item 4B.
Transfer of Prentice Williams leaves a vacancy for the principal of the Opportunity Center. 5 candidates were interviewed for the position. The interview committee consisted of 4 district administrators, 2 principals, and 1 counselor, with the recommendation of Fred Williams as the most qualified person to meet the duties and responsibilities of this position. Mr. Williams has 20 years of experience as an educator, with 12 of those years serving Pascagoula-Gautier School District as a physical education teacher, basketball and track head coach, and as a physical education teacher and basketball and track head coach, and 8 years in a neighboring district, with 3 of those years serving as assistant principal. With his leadership experience, dedication, and commitment to our district and community, he will be an excellent addition to the Opportunity Center. If approved, his start date will be July 1st, 2025. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve Mr. Fred Williams as the principal for the Opportunity Center.
All right, do I have a motion on item 4B?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Yay!
Glad to have you back in the district.
All right, moving on to item 5A, informational reports. Everyone's had an opportunity to review these over the weekend. Are there any questions or comments on the vandalism or the discipline report? I don't see the construction.
I will tell you from the construction update that came from JBHM, there was on the track, the wetlands, we did receive our permit, for that. We're in the process of getting quotes for mitigation credits for the wetlands. And those should be moving forward. I know we have 2 quotes, or actually people with MP are working on that to get to 2 quotes. We have 2 quotes in hand. We're actually trying to get a third to make sure we get the best price for that. That is simultaneous with going out for advertising for bids that you have already approved in a previous meeting. It appears that we will be able to open bids on June 6th to have them ready for June 9th at that board meeting in June to go forward.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item 4B, our school improvement updates. Everyone's had the opportunity to review those. Are there any questions or comments on any of those reports? Okay, moving on to 5C, our monthly financial reports. Any questions or comments?
Jenny, feel good?
Especially in months with the cash in, greater than the cash out.
Okay, moving on to 6A. This is our legal counsel contract. Want me to read it?
Sure.
Okay. Mississippi Code Section 377301 defines the general powers and duties of the Board of Trustees. Subsection X addresses the duty to employ and fix the duties and compensation of such legal counsel as being necessary. Our current memorandum for understanding expires on June 30th, 2025. The proposed agreement for 2025 to 2026 does not reflect any changes in current fees. So we have a board attorney agreement in front of us for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Right. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you,
Welcome back
Kelly.
to you too.
Okay.
Chairman, I make a motion at this time that we close this meeting to determine need for executive session.
All right, I've got a motion. Is there a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. We've got expulsion. Do I say that?
Yes, ma'am.
I couldn't count these ahead of time, but expulsion and
Multiple
multiple
exceptions.
exceptions to our board policy JBCCA and the tuition enrollment student and 2 requests for approval of student readmission. That's a lot of things.